Welcome to another episode of The Profile. My name is Gary Dunn, and on this show we typically find out something about our guests we didn't already know. And tonight on the couch, or the chair as it were, is Mr. Dom Mariani. Dom, thanks for coming in.
No worries.
So nice to have you here.
Thank you.
Just going to ask you a series of questions, and first one is, where were you born?
I was born in Fremantle, Western Australia.
And
been there all my life.
Yep.
Pretty much. Yeah.
So you're a guitar player?
I am. Yes.
And you sing?
I do.
Yep. And
write songs.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a great songwriter, I must say. And
thanks.
No problem. And I just wanted to sort of get an insight into how it all happened for you.
Sure.
When did you realise I'm going to be a musician? You were passionate and excited about that part of your life.
Yeah, I think it happened fairly early for me, as a toddler. I think there is a photograph of me playing a ukulele, so I don't remember playing that ukulele, but according to my parents, I'm from Italian descent, I guess, and Italian functions would always have like a band playing and stuff, and I'd always be up the front conducting the band, looking at the band, watching them play and stuff, and I guess, that's where it all started. I think I was going to be a musician.
Yeah, so because you look up on the stage and it looked exciting.
It looked exciting, and I loved music, I guess.
Yeah.
My parents were really into music. They played a lot of Italian sort of classics at home.
Yeah.
I guess that's where it started. Then Elvis Presley came into our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they sang and all.
Yeah, Mum had a great voice.
Yeah, fantastic.
She used to sing and while she was doing the dishes or cooking. Yeah.
So for you, the Go Starts would have been one of your first bands. I think that was the first band I saw at the Hernando's Hideaway, I think in 1979, going back a bit.
Yeah, that was an early band. The first band I had was a high school band.
Yep.
We were called Impact.
Yep. And
we were playing instrumentals like Shadows or pop hits of the day, in kind of an instrumental way, because no one wanted to play bass as well, and so there was 3 guitar players and a drummer.
Because there was 4 strings on a bass, and
no one was, no one wanted to take up the bass. No one was going to go, okay, well, I'll play bass. But eventually, one guy says, look, stuff it, I'll play bass. Yeah. That's how it started. I was about 14 when that kicked off, and then through high school, we changed as our music taste changed. I was a big Beatles fan.
Yep.
Creedence Clearwater Revival came into my life.
Cosmo's Factory, first album.
And obviously, bands like Led Zeppelin and Status Quo and Black Sabbath.
Yeah.
Was the next progression from there, and I had a band called we were called Gypsy, sort of coming out of high school.
Yep.
And that was my first experience of playing in pubs. And we actually supported Man Who's Here Tonight, Dave Hole.
Oh,
Probably won't remember that. It was at the Sandgroper. And I was 17 years old.
Yeah. Well, I must be about the same age, because I used to sneak in, well, I'm probably younger, sneak into the Sandgroper in the White Sands to see Mr. Hole play.
Yeah.
Very inspiring as well.
So back in those days, and the band Gypsy was playing, sort of rock and roll standards, like 50s rock and roll, but really kind of revved up. We'd play Status Quo covers, we'd play some ZZ Top, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, that kind of thing. And the bands at the time we looked up to were bands like Fatty Lumpkin. There was Dave Hole, obviously, and there was Sitting Bull. Was another band, a guitar player, Paul Felton.
I remember.
Really liked the way he played. So that was my sort of earliest sort of introduction to sort of Perth rock, I suppose.
I think it was great. Like you mentioned Led Zeppelin, obviously. What would be your greatest influence out of all those bands? What do you
probably think? Creedence Clearwater and John Fogerty.
I
listened to that a lot. The first album I bought was More Creedence Gold. So I had some EPs before that, and the first single or EP I ever bought was a Beatles EP called Beatles Hits with Love Me Do on it and stuff. So played those to death. But something about Creedence and John Fogerty's voice, and I think his songwriting, the simplicity of it, and it, sort of very direct. You'd hear it on AM radio, just like, who's this guy? Is that Creedence Clearwater Revival again? And obviously I love the Beatles. The Beatles was my first and favourite band, but then Creedence was the band that I kind of, as a youngster, looking at sort of forming bands and wanting to play rock and roll.
Yeah.
That was the band that really kind of got me in.
So listening to all those different artists from overseas, and then obviously getting your own taste of it, watching people like Dave Hole, Fatty Lumpkin, etc., etc.
Yeah.
What would the first concert you went to that inspired you to go to a bigger concert?
Well, the first concert was something called the Fremantle Rock Fair.
Right.
It was at the Fremantle Oval, and there was a lot of local bands playing that day, but the main band that played, the band that came from over east, I'd never heard of them before, but I've become a huge fan of them.
Yeah.
When I knew who they were. There was a band called Lobby Lloyd and the Coloured-Balls.
Oh, I remember Lobby.
They were an extremely loud band, and I remember the first song that they started with was Johnny Be Good. I think they were kind of plastered too, and he just gets up there and says, I'm going to play this song, it's called Johnny Be Good, and just went into it and played that for about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But that day, the band that really impressed me was a band called Sitting Bull.
Yeah.
Because they came out and they kicked off with LaGrange.
Yeah.
They had all this smoke going on, and I bought the single LaGrange, and I thought, wow, these guys are doing it like the record, But that was my first, real concert.
Yeah.
But I guess the first sort of ticketed concert, like at the entertainment centre, was actually Sherbet.
All right.
My girlfriend bought the tickets.
1975, I think I was
something
there
like
too.
that, and then Status Quo.
Yeah.
Yeah, after that.
Oh, fantastic. So going back to the question of the Ghost Arts,
Yes.
obviously the next thing was the Ghost Arts for you, because that was...
No, I sort of had many bands, between, I guess, that band Gypsy and the Ghost Arts, which, never really got off the ground. We'd play a gig and we'd really suck and then change our name again. So I did that many times. But I think the Ghost Arts started off as a fairly kind of 60s influenced band, that took in a lot of that new wave thing that came out of the sort of late 70s. And then it developed more into an English sound.
Yeah.
And we were around for about 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
And I kind of got jack of that and thought, nah, this is not where I want to go. And after that, I formed the Stems.
Yep.
Yeah.
So where did the name come from, the Stems? Was that...
Well, there's an album called Nuggets, which is a double album that came out in the sort of mid-70s, which was like collected by this guy called Lenny Kaye, who plays guitar for Patti Smith.
Yeah.
And he collected all these kind of really obscure songs and put them on this double album of bands like the Count Five,
Oh, yeah.
Psychotic Reaction, the Electric Prunes, all these really kind of obscure mid-60s bands that were sort of taking their influences from British bands like the Beatles and the Stones and stuff, but were kind of reinterpreting that in a wilder way, in a way. That was known as like psychedelic punk rock music. So there were bands called the Seeds, the Leaves, and we thought we'd call ourselves the Stems.
Very natural, all that seeds and leaves and stems.
Yeah, so we needed the connection. I don't know if it was the roots, but...
During that time, did you find, because obviously I played in cover bands that wanted to be an original band and tried to do both, there was either you were covers or you were original in Perth in that time, and there seemed to be a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a fight or
barrier.
A bit of a barrier.
Yeah, I remember that, and I felt that, but it really didn't bother me. I knew that I wanted to do my own thing.
Yeah.
There was this kind of like some kind of thing going on, you'd read it in the press where bands would sort of be, saying, cover bands is not the way to go and you should be an original band and all that kind of thing. I never really bought into it.
Yeah.
I know that cover thing existed and those bands became very big and popular. The original bands weren't as big, but, there were certain bands that kind of developed a following and did quite well.
Yeah, the Stems were certainly one of them.
Yeah, we did very well.
And did the Stems go overseas?
No, we did not. When we were actually going in the 80s, we reformed later on in 2003, and we actually did some tour. We did more touring overseas than we have.
Yeah, because I think you were signed to Mushroom.
We were, yeah.
I was, if I remember correctly. And DM3, was that the next?
Yeah, that came out of when the Stems broke up. I was still signed to the label, and I had a band in between that called the Someloves, which was more of a studio project. We did the one album. I went to the US and recorded that with a guy named Mitch Easter.
Yeah.
Worked with REM and stuff. Yeah. And that album came out and, you know, got all these glowing reviews and everything, but we told the label that, yeah, we're just a studio band and we're not, you know, going on the road, and they didn't really like that idea.
Was that just to fulfill that?
It was to fulfill it, yeah. Look, I think after the Stems break, I was kind of, you know, not in a good place really.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, maybe what I should have done is taken a good long break and kind of, you know, reevaluated what I wanted to do. But, you know, the album came out great. It was still good music, wrote great songs, but I wasn't prepared to, you know, take it any further. So that band sort of only did the one album, and then DM3 came out of that, pretty much.
And DM3 released an album as well.
We released three. Yeah.
I just remember listening to one at that time, but...
Yeah, and we mainly kind of, I guess, had our market in Europe.
Yeah.
So when the Stems broke up, I went back to a day job.
Yeah.
Because I started out, well, I studied as an architectural draftsman. I did that for a few years. Yeah. And then, it was only just to satisfy my folks, really.
You're taking away question 11, Al.
Am I?
My producer,
I'm moving too fast for you.
Other jobs throughout your life, so I'll get to that in a sec. So, okay, you went overseas, did some sort of thing in New York for a businessman over there. That was the Stems reunion after all of that, or?
Yeah, that was part of that.
Yeah. Was that Little Stephen?
Little Stephen Van Zandt, yeah.
Yeah, and played with Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah, he has a radio show called The Underground Garage.
Yeah.
And he's a champion of rock and roll. He wants to bring rock and roll back, so he has this show that is syndicated all over the world. And I got this email one day from his assistant saying, we've been playing your stuff. And I thought, who's this, And I represent Little Stephen. Little Stephen really likes it. Wants to know if you've got any other stuff. And I said, yeah,
piles
sure.
of it.
I said, sure. I've got all these albums and stuff. So, I'll send it over. So I send it over. Next thing I know, he's flogging all this music on his show, and saying how much he loves it. And
right.
The next thing I hear is that, they says, oh, Little Stephen's going to be in Australia playing with Bruce Springsteen. And I said, oh, that's great. I don't think he's coming to Perth. And he goes, oh, no, whereabouts are you? And I said, well, I live in Perth. And she said, well, look, if you get yourself over to Melbourne, he'd really like to meet you. So I said to my wife, Ange, I said, look, want to go to Melbourne for a weekend and see Bruce Springsteen? So we did, and we got to meet him backstage. He had it all kind of set up for his underground garage thing. And he's just going, I can't believe the Stems were an 80s band, incredible, I love it, And from there we kind of struck up a bit of a friendship. And I went to the States a few times, and then he had this huge festival that he did, which was an incredible lineup of bands, just all the bands that I loved and grew up with. He dug up some of the most obscure sort of 60s bands like the Electric Prunes, the Chocolate Watch Band, the Creation from England, the Pretty Things, They
got them all together on one bill.
On this bill. And then there was Bo Diddley.
Wow.
Nancy Sinatra.
Wow.
The Dictators, New York Dolls.
Wow.
It was unbelievable, the lineup.
And the Stems.
And we got asked to do it. We were early in the afternoon. But yeah, it was a great experience. Iggy Pop and the Stooges too. They were one of the main acts, and the Strokes. Yeah. So yeah, that was amazing.
So we've been doing this thing with our producer Al, the Pub Legends.
Yep. At
the Charles Hotel, and we're wondering if you'll come and join us sometime. Maybe I can get a quick plug in here so we can sell a few more tickets with you on the bill.
I'll consider everything.
Yeah. No worries. Look, okay, what was the last concert you went to?
Big concert?
Yep.
It would have been Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah,
not long ago.
He plays for a long time, doesn't he?
He does.
I went to a couple. Very
amazing. The energy, incredible.
Yeah, fantastic. And so the first single you bought, did you?
Was the Beatles hits EP.
That was the EP thing.
Yeah, with Love Me Do and Please Please Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what other jobs throughout your life? I'll get to that question now.
Oh, well, yeah, I mainly drafting, you know, sort of architectural drafting's been my thing. I worked in a music shop for a short time.
Which one was that?
It was called Lou Rasper Music in Fremantle.
I remember Lou Rasper on Canning Highway. Was it? No, he's in Fremantle.
Fremantle, under the Myer building.
He's a real estate guy now.
That's correct, yes. So I worked there for about a year and a half. But mainly, you know, I went to Leederville College and became an architectural draftsman, and I did that for a few years, and then that was only just to, you know, wait until I became a big rock star, you know, then I could leave my job.
It's funny, we all have to supplement it with something, don't we?
Yeah. And then that didn't work out, so I went back to drafting. But yeah, I enjoy architectural work. It's, you know, I love architecture, so
it's always something
it's
you
very
can
creative kind
fall
of work.
back on as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't complain.
And what's your favourite band of all time?
Well, I'd have to say Creedence Clearwater Revival, because I guess they, you know, tug on the heartstrings a bit. But you know, the Beatles are up there.
Yeah,
I love the Beatles, and I love Jimi Hendrix Experience. You know, they're the three that I love.
So, if you were stranded on a desert island and you had a couple of minutes to think about which album you were going to grab because you're going to be alone, what would that album be?
Let It Be by the Beatles.
Wow.
Yeah, because I guess I grew up with that album, and it was the first real Beatles album I bought.
Yeah.
And I got to know that album back to front. When the, you know, the kind of awakening of music and knowing how cool rock music was and everything, I think that was the album of the time. Yeah. You know, the Creedence came before, but you know, when I was getting right into it, that Beatles album especially, and the movie that was out at the time as well. I went to the drives to see that with my folks, you know, even though they didn't really like it. They took me because I wanted to see it, you know. Yeah,
it's funny how we were rebelling in those days.
Yeah,
with something as simple as the Beatles and that sort of thing. Isn't it?
Well, the Beatles, they set the benchmark for everything, really, didn't they?
Yeah. Okay, you brought some albums in with you.
I did.
Of your latest venture.
Where are they? Oh, here they are.
Got those.
Yeah, well, this is in the band I'm in now. This band's been going since 2011.
Yep.
Called Datura 4.
Yep.
Sort of gone back to my roots with this one, and it's a band that I formed with Greg Hitchcock.
Yep.
Who played with the Bamboos, another local band here, and he was in the Ghost Arts with me.
Yeah, wow.
And then he went off over east and joined the New Christ and UMI.
Oh, that's right.
He was with those guys for a while. And then he came back to Perth, and he lives just down the road. We saw each other at a supermarket and said, hey, we should get together and have a jam.
So do you have gigs lined up, or
we play
recording, or?
Yeah, we record. Like these albums have come out through a US label called Alive Natural.
They look very psychedelic.
Yeah, it's kind of that kind of music. It's hard rock sort of blues. There's a real hard rock blues feel to it.
Yeah.
You know, with sort of experimental guitar. You know, we sort of shy away from the sort of virtuoso guitar style thing. It's more of, you know, we just let it rip and jam. It's a band where we have the song, but we'll let the song sort of go and, you know, see where it ends up, basically. Yeah. Greg and I play really well together. We kind of weave guitar players. You know, he's really good on slide.
Yeah.
You know, so we kind of work together pretty well.
Talking about recording in studios, did you have something to do with designing John Villani's studio? Or
I did, yeah. John and I were sort of friends for quite a long time, and he got me involved in that studio on Newcastle Street.
That's right, yeah. And that was pretty good at the time?
Yeah, well, you know, I did it cheap for him, but it was sad the way it all ended up for John, but he finally got what he was after, and then he got sick.
Passed away.
Yeah. But he wanted that sort of 5-metre ceiling in the live room, based on sort of Abbey Road specs, I think that is.
I can remember some PAs being an absolute mess, and, you know, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, call John Villani, and he'd come in and just rewire everything and make it all sound absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, he was a talented guy.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, moving sideways here. What is your favourite Perth band that you've seen live?
Favourite Perth band I've seen live? I used to like the Mannequins a lot.
Yeah.
I went and saw them quite a few times. I just like the songwriting in that band.
Yeah.
They were really great. Would you class the Farris Brothers Perth band?
Absolutely.
Yeah, they were pretty amazing live.
Yeah, they were too.
Obviously Fatty Lumpkin and, you know,
Yep.
those sort of early bands from that sort of 70s era, you know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have to ask this question.
I have to put Dave Holl in there too, because he was pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Three-piece. Yeah.
I saw him the other week actually doing his slide upside down thing, and his
Still great.
there still. So, your favourite TV show growing up?
It's a toss-up between the Munsters and the Addams Family. I used to love Combat too when I was a young kid.
First time I've heard the Munsters and the Addams Family.
Yeah, I love those two shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there any chance of a Stems reunion in the future, or?
Quite a good possibility. We've been doing gigs off and on now since we got back together in 2003.
Yeah.
We'll do at least one show a year.
Yeah.
And occasionally we'll get on a tour of some sort. So yeah.
Yep.
Still alive. Still a heartbeat there.
And obviously you have children, so you're married and with 2 children, I think. And
yeah, John and Ruby.
are they musically minded?
They are. They love music.
Yeah.
Ruby, who lives in London, she's really into sort of underground music, stuff I've never heard of. And, she'll turn me on to
your
stuff.
parents used to think was weird when you were young. You think?
Yeah. So and she plays bass.
Oh, cool.
In some kind of punk band over there. And then I've got John, who's still living in Perth. He's recently moved out, and he's a guitarist. He's really into modifying amplifiers and working on guitar pedals and stuff like that. He's really into that kind of thing.
Sounds. And
He's always trying to perfect the perfect amp.
We'll never get there.
No, it doesn't. No.
It's a never-ending.
When he thinks he's there, he comes up with something else.
So, any unfulfilled ambitions, Dom?
Well, there's quite a few. Yeah, I'd like to catch a marlin.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd like to go. Sorry.
When you're saying you're going up to Exmouth at some time to do a show?
Yeah, this weekend.
Good marlin.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be getting up early enough. That's all.
Go straight after the gig, straight to bed.
And wake up, at lunchtime or something like that. But I'd like to do a lot more travelling, obviously. Yeah, I've done a lot, but I really like travelling. Yeah.
Do you collect anything?
Records? Yeah. Collect a lot of other little bits and pieces. Yeah, musical instruments, guitars and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what? This is going to be a strange question. What would you put on your gravestone?
Oh, yeah. Resting peacefully.
Resting peacefully. Okay, well, you got any questions you want to ask me?
I haven't seen you play for a long time, actually.
Yeah.
You're still playing in bands?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What's the band you're playing in now?
I've got a few different projects. I'm doing a Gobbles reunion soon.
Okay, yeah.
I play with our producer, Al, and a whole pile of other guys from the different bands of the 80s.
Yeah.
And we do a thing called Pub Legends, which we'd love you to be a part of the next one, I think.
Okay.
And I've got a duo called Dipod, that's so...
Oh, it's good. Good
really
you're still
exciting.
playing. It's good.
Yeah. And that's the passion, I'm sure, for you too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I sort of stopped playing for a little while there, and I think I drove everyone nuts. So
I threatened to retire every year I play, but it's you can't give that up. It's music. It's in your soul. You know. Yeah.
Oh, look, thanks very much for coming in.
No worries, Gary.
Really pleasure talking to you and getting a bit of an insight into your career and your history. And
no worries.
Look, viewers, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and give us a thumbs up, and she'll be right, mate. Thanks very much.